I'm going to tell you something that happened to me 18 months ago on Highway 9, somewhere between Millbrook and the middle of nowhere. I've told this story exactly once before, to a police officer. He wrote it down, closed his notepad, and told me to get some rest. I don't think he believed me. I'm not sure I'd believe me either. My name is Adam Reeves. I'm 31 years old. I drive long haul, have done for 6 years. 18-wheelers mostly, refrigerated cargo, industrial equipment, whatever needs moving from one end of the country to the other. I've put close to 1 million miles on various trucks over the years. I've driven through blizzards, through flash floods, through the kind of dense fog where you can't see the hood of your own vehicle. I am not easily rattled behind the wheel. What happened on September 14th rattled me. I want to be precise about the details, because I've gone over them so many times in my head that I know them the way I know my own face. The exact sequence, the exact order, the exact feeling of each moment as it happened. Precision matters when you're trying to make someone understand something that sounds, on the surface, completely insane. So, September 14th, I was running a solo haul, industrial equipment, nothing unusual, from a depot outside Millbrook, heading northwest toward the state line. It was a straightforward run, about 400 miles, mostly highway, mostly flat. The kind of drive I could do in my sleep. I'd done it before, I knew the road. I left the depot at 10 p.m. I wanted to make the state line crossing by around 4 in the morning, beat the morning traffic, deliver early. Standard planning. I had my coffee, I had my playlist, I had the highway opening up in front of me and the truck's headlights like a clean black ribbon. Everything was completely normal until mile marker 231. That's where I first saw the car. It was a white sedan, older model. It was pulled over on the right shoulder, hazard lights blinking. That slow orange pulse that you see from miles away on a dark highway. As I got closer, I could see a figure standing beside it. Someone on the side of the road next to a broken down car, in the middle of the night. Now, I want you to understand something about truck drivers and roadside stops. We have rules, unwritten ones, but rules all the same. You don't stop for unknown people on dark highways. You don't pull an 18-wheeler onto the shoulder for a stranger at midnight. It's not coldness. It's sense. You call it in on the radio. You notify the next service station. You keep moving. I know these rules. I follow these rules. But as I passed the car, doing about 65, close enough to see clearly in my headlights for just a moment, I saw something that made me take my foot off the gas without thinking. The figure beside the car was a child. Small, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Standing completely still on the shoulder of a dark highway at 11 at night. Alone, no adult in sight. Just standing there in the wash of my headlights, watching me pass. I drove another quarter mile before I could safely pull over. I radioed dispatch, told them I had a possible abandoned child situation at mile marker 231 on Highway 9, requested they notify local authorities. Dispatch said they'd pass it along and told me not to engage, to keep moving. Protocol. I sat with my engine idling for about 30 seconds. Then I put the truck in reverse. I know what you're thinking, but I want you to imagine what it felt like to drive past a child standing alone on a dark highway at 11 o'clock at night. I want you to imagine keeping moving. I couldn't. I backed up along the shoulder until I could see the white sedan in my mirrors. Then I eased to a stop about 50 yards back. Left my headlights on, left my hazards running, and climbed down from the cab. Colder than it should have been for mid-September. The kind of cold that comes with no warning and no reason. That makes you pull your jacket tighter before you know you're doing it. I walked toward the sedan. The hazard lights were still blinking. The car was empty. I could see through the windows as I approached. No one in the front seat, no one in the back. The hazard lights were the only thing running. The engine was off. The headlights were off. Just that slow, patient orange pulse. The child was gone. I stood on the shoulder and turned around slowly. Both directions of highway empty. The flat land on either side of the road, dark and featureless. No movement anywhere. A kid doesn't just disappear from an open highway shoulder in the 30 seconds it takes a truck to back up 50 yards. I checked around the car, looked underneath it even. Nothing. I got back in my truck and sat there for a long moment with the engine running, and my hands on the wheel, and a feeling in my chest that I can only describe as wrongness. Not fear exactly. Something more specific. The feeling of a thing that doesn't fit. A thing that the brain keeps turning over and over because it refuses to settle into any sensible shape. I called dispatch again, told them the child was gone. They said authorities had been notified and I should continue my route. I asked if anyone had called in a breakdown at mile 231. They checked. No one had. I pulled back onto the highway and kept driving. For about 40 minutes, everything was normal. The road, the dark, the low sound of the engine, the yellow lines coming at me in the headlights. Normal. I drank some coffee. I turned my playlist back on. I started the slow process of convincing myself there was a rational explanation. A parent had come back, a passing car had stopped. I had simply missed something in the dark. By the time I hit mile marker 271, I had almost managed it. That's when the white sedan appeared in my rearview mirror. I noticed it because of the headlights. They were slightly off color. Not yellow, not the blue-white of modern LEDs. Something in between. A color that was almost right but not quite, the way a copy of a thing is almost identical to the original until you put them side by side. The sedan was about 200 yards back, keeping pace with me exactly. Not gaining, not falling behind. Just sitting there in my rear view at a constant distance. Those slightly wrong headlights aimed at the back of my truck. I sped up slightly, to 70 then 75. The sedan matched it exactly. I slowed down to 55. The sedan slowed to 55. I told myself it was just someone heading in the same direction at the same speed. It happens. Two vehicles on an empty highway falling into the same rhythm. Completely normal. But the headlights bothered me. That not quite right color. And the fact that it had appeared from nowhere. I'd been watching my mirrors. The road behind me had been empty. And then it wasn't. I drove for another 20 minutes, with the sedan in my rear view. Constant distance, constant speed. Those pale off-color headlights just sitting there, not moving, not closing. Then I passed a mile marker. Mile 231. I blinked, looked at my odometer, looked at the marker again as it passed my window. Mile 231. I had started at mile 231. I had been driving for over an hour. I had watched the mile markers counting up. 232, 250, 271, onward. I was nowhere near where I started. And yet, mile 231. I watched the next one come. And the one after that. Every mile marker I passed said the same number. I need to tell you what that felt like, because I think it's the part of this story that's hardest to explain from the outside. It wasn't like a horror movie. There was no music. There was no dramatic moment of realization. It was slower than that, and quieter than that, and somehow worse because of it. It was the feeling of reaching for something solid, and finding that the thing you thought was solid has become something else entirely, without you noticing when it changed. I picked up my radio. Static. I tried my phone. No signal. Not unusual on rural highways, but the timing of it settled into my chest alongside everything else. I kept driving, because what else do you do? You're in an 18-wheeler on a dark highway, and there's no other option. You keep driving and you try to think, and you try not to let the thinking go to the places it wants to go. The sedan was still behind me. Same distance, same speed. I started paying attention to other things on the road. Road signs, turn-off markers, anything with text or numbers on it. For the next several miles, every sign I passed was blank. Not vandalized, not spray-painted or obscured. Clean, white rectangles with nothing on them. Standing at the correct intervals, the correct heights, the correct angles. Everything exactly right, except for the absence of any text at all. And then I came around a long, gentle curve and saw lights ahead. A gas station, open, lit up, the kind of fluorescent brightness that looks almost violent on a dark highway at 1 in the morning. A truck stop. I could see 2 other rigs parked at the far end of the lot. I pulled in, hard, faster than I should have. The sedan did not follow me in. I sat in the lot with my engine running and watched the road. The sedan passed without slowing, those off-color headlights sliding past the entrance and disappearing into the dark. I stayed in that lot for 45 minutes. There was a man working the counter inside, 50 or so, heavy-set, the kind of face that has spent a lot of years in fluorescent light. I went in and bought coffee I didn't need, and stood at the counter and said as casually as I could manage, "Quick question, what mile marker are we at here?" He looked at me. 231, he said. I put my coffee down. "That's not possible," I said. I started at 231. Over an hour ago. I've been driving northwest the whole time. He looked at me for a long moment. "You're the third one tonight," he said. I stared at him. "Third what?" He reached under the counter and pulled out a notepad. Handwritten notes, 3 or 4 lines. He turned it toward me. The first line said, "White car, kid on the road, mile 231, 10:47 p.m. The second line said, "Same number on every marker, signs blank, white car following, 11:52 p.m. I looked up at him. "Who wrote these?" "2 other drivers," he said. "Tonight. Both heading northwest on Highway 9. Both stopped here." He paused. "Both looked exactly like you look right now." I asked him what happened to them. "They kept going," he said, "after they rested up, both of them." And he picked up his coffee cup, looked at it for a moment. "I don't know," he said. "I never see the drivers who stop here a second time. They come in, they rest, they go back out." He set the cup down. "I've been working this station for 11 years. I don't know a single driver who stopped here twice." I asked him what that meant. He shook his head slowly. "I don't know what it means. I just know what I've seen." I asked him about the road, about mile 231, about whether there was something wrong with this section of highway. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "There was an accident. Long time ago. A family, a woman, her husband, their little boy, right around mile 231. Nobody ever really figured out what happened. Car just left the road. No other vehicles involved. No weather. No obvious reason. The boy was the only one they didn't find." He let that sit for a second. "They searched for months," he said. "Never found him." I stood at that counter and felt the cold come back. The same cold from the highway shoulder. The same cold that had hit me when I climbed out of my truck the first time and walked toward the White Sedan. I asked how long ago the accident was. He thought about it. 15, 16 years, he said. Maybe more. The child I had seen on the shoulder had looked 8 or 9 years old. I did not say that out loud, but I thought it. I sat in my truck in that lot for another hour before I could make myself go back out. I thought about calling my wife. I thought about calling dispatch. I thought about sitting in that lot until morning came and the light changed everything the way light always does. But I had a delivery to make. And sitting in a truck stop lot doesn't change what's on the road outside it. It just delays the moment you have to find out. I pulled back onto Highway 9 at 2:43 in the morning. The first mile marker I passed said 232, then 233, then 234. I exhaled. The road was empty. No white sedan, no off-color headlights, nothing behind me but dark. The mile markers counted up the way they were supposed to. The signs had their text back. Speed limits, distances, turn-off names. Everything normal. Everything exactly as it should be. I drove through the rest of the night without incident, made my delivery, stopped at a diner outside the state line and ate breakfast, and drank 3 cups of coffee, and didn't talk to anyone. On the way back, I took a different road. I filed a report with the State Highway Patrol when I got home, told them about the child at the shoulder, the sedan, the mile markers. The officer who took my statement was professional and patient, and wrote everything down. When I finished, he told me they'd look into it. 3 days later, I got a call from his department. They had no record of any other reports from Highway 9 that night. No other drivers had called in anything unusual. No record of the truck stop I described at mile 231 either. They said the nearest commercial stop on that stretch of highway was at mile 304. 73 miles past where I stopped. I drove that stretch of Highway 9 once more, about a month later, in daylight. I wanted to see it. I counted the mile markers from 225 onward. The sequence went 228, 229, 230, 232. There was no mile marker 231. There hadn't been one for as long as the highway department could tell me. The numbering had just always skipped it. A clerical error from when the markers were first installed, decades ago, that nobody had ever corrected because there was no practical reason to. Mile 231 on Highway 9 doesn't exist. I've been trying to figure out what that means ever since. I don't have an answer. I have the cold. I have the image of a small figure standing perfectly still in the wash of my headlights on a dark shoulder. I have the memory of 30 seconds of empty road where a child had just been standing. And I have the man at the counter of a truck stop that officially doesn't exist, telling me I was the third one tonight, turning a notepad toward me with 2 lines of handwriting already on it. I still drive Highway 9 sometimes. The job requires it. I have never again stopped at mile 231, because mile 231 doesn't exist. And I don't know what happens to the people who stop there twice. 2:59 in the morning is a strange hour. Too late to still be awake, too early to call it morning. The kind of hour where the road stretches out in front of you, and you can't always be certain where it's taking you. If you drive at night, and I know some of you do, pay attention to your mile markers, and if they all say the same number, don't stop, don't pull over, don't get out of your vehicle, just keep driving. I'm just the one telling the story.